June 9th, 2024. And about 20 days ago, one of the most famous convicted insider traders of all time died May 20th, 2024. He was a big one in the 80s. He started the whole hedge fund merger arbitrage stuff, which is where I started in merger arbitrage. That was my first job before I started working on the New York Stock Exchange. It was a fun job, super exciting and everything. But he did it to such an extent, they ended up going to jail. Okay. And he actually ratted all his friends out, Mike Milken and Dave Levine and Levin, all these guys, which I'll get to in another video. He ratted them all, took a plea deal, ended up spending about 3 years in jail. Well, convicted to 3, he ended up doing like 22 months or whatever it was. But the strange thing was, said he took like a $700,000 loan, small, right? And which is about 4 million in today's money, and started his own hedge fund and started doing merger arbitrage, which is all like, it's called risk arbitrage, but it's like when one company takes over another and you're trying to make money off that. Well, legally, that's what I used to do. But the illegal part was what this guy used to do. He got in trouble, went to jail, all this stuff, turned on his friends, like I said. Then he got divorced. And I still remember when I first started, he at like 91 is when he got his divorce. His wife was an heiress of a massive fortune. So all this shit, he got divorced after he got out of jail and all that. He got $23 million from his wife and paid $180,000 a year. So reverse. So the man in this time in the 90s was getting 180 grand a year off of his wife's alimony and got a $23 million check. But we're going to get into this guy, and he's kind of interesting. Well, I'll do a whole video on this guy, but the guy's name's Ivan Boesky. Okay, Ivan Boesky, look him up. He's interesting. There's a great book I read called Den of Thieves, not the movie that's out there, called Den of Thieves. They never made a movie on this, but it's really all about that stuff. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. He was big on arbitrage, and that's what I want to talk about. That made me think I got to do a video on arbitrage. There's convertible arbitrage, there's regular arbitrage, and then there's merger arbitrage. I'm going to do all three and hopefully explain how it works. Let's get into it. So if I was asked, what is arbitrage? Ken, could you explain arbitrage to me? I guess I could try. So understand, first you have to know this is not a wash trade. Arbitrage is legal. Remember, there's arbitrage and arbitration. Both are legal. Arbitrage is legal. Arbitration is when you have a dispute and you don't want to go to court. You go through this panel where they make a choice and it's not appealable. Not our topic. So arbitrage is when you see a price disparity, price discrepancy, it's a better word, and you try to take advantage of it. So arbitrage is buying one thing and selling short another to lock in a gain. That's what it is. Buying one thing and selling short another to lock in a gain. That's literally what arbitrage is. So back in the old days, back in the 90s, when I worked on the stock exchange, there were multiple exchanges and remember, computers were there, but they weren't quite what they are now. So people were doing hand stuff. It was by hand and personal exchanges, people standing on the floor doing trades on paper. It's crazy. So sometimes you'd see like a stock, like it was trading in New York at $60 a share. So let's put it on the screen. Let's see how it works. Okay, so let's say I'm on the stock exchange and I'm looking at a stock and say it's IBM, right? IBM, and on the New York Stock Exchange is trading 60 by 62. We'll just say the bid is $60, right? So the bid is 60, right? This is where people want to buy it, and we could buy it at 62 because that's what the ask of the offer is. Bid ask. Remember, bid ask. Okay, so bid is on the left, ask is on the right. This is where we want to buy it. This is where we can buy it. If somebody wants to sell it, they sell it here. But then we also look at the same time that actually on the Pacific Exchange, which is all across the country, this is in the 90s. It's not a thing anymore. We could sell it at 62.50 and buy it at 63. Interesting. So it's kind of like a distorted, there's a price disparity here, and we can take advantage of this. Now, normally I could say, oh, let's do this. We'll just buy 100 shares at 62 and then go and sell them at 62.50. The problem is when this happens, if they see the stock trading at 62, the people over here will go, oh my God, it's priced too much. And they'll drop the price and that'll disappear. And I won't be able to sell it there. So what I'm going to do at the exact same time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy 1,000 shares at 62. So I'm going to spend 62, whatever it is, 62 grand to buy 1,000 shares at 62. And then at the exact same time, it can't be different. I will have an order out there to sell short 1,000 shares at 62.50. So that's going to bring in 62,500. So I'm exact same time. So I'm going to buy the shares buy the shares at 62, and exact same time sell them short at 62.50. Then I have these shares. I'm going to use these shares right here. Remember, I'm short, so I'm long and short at the same time. I'm short it. So what I'm going to do is these shares that I bought, I'm going to put right here, and it's going to pay it off. So boom. I'm going to cover my short position at 60. I've already covered it at 62. So I make 50 cents or $500. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot to make off of a $62,000 investment, but there's no risk here because I'm buying it at the same time I'm shorting it. So there's not any risk. It's just an automatic. Now, this goes away now that there's computers and algorithms that catch this stuff. And it was never really this big. Maybe it's like 20 cents or something. But it did happen. And if you could act quick enough before they figured it out, boom, you could make yourself some money. So that's regular arbitrage. That's arbitrage that it used to happen with just stocks when they were price disparities. Now, it's harder to do now because there's a whole thing, best execution, where you have to buy it at the best price, and there's not as much of this. Pretty much impossible to do now. But there's two other ways it can be done, and we're going to get into that, which is called convertible arbitrage and then merger or risk arbitrage. So we're going to get into that in about 30 seconds. The next one is what they call risk arbitrage or merger arbitrage. The reason it's called risk arbitrage is because normally with arbitrage, pure, like I showed you before, there's no risk. You're shorting and buying at the same time. Even convertible arbitrage, which we'll do next, it has no risk once you put it on. This is about taking advantage of a deal, and the deal could fall apart. At the end, I'll tell you what happened to us with it. I still remember it was 1992 in like November. I still remember the names of the people, how bad it was. Okay, so risk arbitrage is when a merger happens. Now, normally when a merger happens, it's like one stock for, it's this stock for that stock, and I'm going to do that. But sometimes it's like a cash deal, which makes it hard. I'm not going to do the cash one because it doesn't help you at all. But I'm going to show you how risk arbitrage works on a very, very basic level. Okay, so you have Company A. Company A announces a deal to buy Company B, which means Company B stock will rise up to somewhere what it is, where it should be. Now, if the Company A said, listen, we're going to buy the stock of Company B for $26, this will rise up to about $25.99. And that's not really arbitrage. People try to say it is, but buying the stock at $25.99 and letting it be taken out at 26 is just speculation. That's not really this. So understand, when I make a deal, if Company A offers to buy Company B for $26, right, this stock will run right to $25.99. Because at any point lower than that, even $25.99, you'll make money. It might even trade to 26. But anything below that, you're guaranteed to make money. If Company A says, I'll pay you 26, if you can buy anything $25.99 or lower, you're looking at a profit. And sometimes you can see whether people think it's going to happen or not. Like if you see a trade, like say they announce a $26 deal, they're going to buy the stock for 26. Again, this isn't merger arbitrage, but it's fun to talk about. If they are going to buy the stock at 26, if A says we're going to buy all of Company B shares at 26, it should go to like $25.99 or so. But if it goes to like $25.50 or even lower, not even 40 maybe, that means people aren't trusting that the deal is going to happen. You can kind of tell because people aren't willing to buy it all the way up. They think there's a failure risk. Even if sometimes it goes down. Sometimes they think it's underpaid. It'll go to like 27 because they think there's going to be a proxy war, a bidding fight, or a proxy bid, or they think it's going to be a bidding war and they think the stock's going to keep rising. So I saw that with UAL, United Airlines, like in the early 90s, went to like $300. It was crazy. Until we will short the stock, but don't worry about that. Now, so let's say it goes to $25.98. What I could do is just buy the shares at $25.98 and wait for them to take it over 26 and make 2 cents. I mean, the risk is that the deal falls through, but that's why as you get closer to the deal. So maybe they announce a deal, it's going to be for 90 days. So the stock will trade it. I think that happened with Microsoft and I forgot who we did that with. Okay. Say it's going to trade at like 25.28 when there's like 90 days to go. As it gets closer, people are more sure the deal is going to happen. It's going to keep rising. And then as we get closer, maybe we're like 10 days away, it's going to be trading at 98. And then the day before, 25.99 or even 26. Because there's less risk. The closer we get to the deal, and then when it passes like certain regulatory things like Hart-Scott-Rodino about antitrust stuff, people are going to start feeling better about the deal and they'll start buying it. Okay. So this is just regular takeover. This is not risk arbitrage. I'm going to now show you how risk arbitrage works. Risk arbitrage, merger arbitrage, is not, it's risky, and I'll explain why. But it's usually for a stock deal. So like, ooh, I didn't want to get rid of that. Company's gone. Just got rid of it like that. Okay. So let's say the stock's, we're gonna do this. Say the stock's trading at, I don't know, $20. Then they decide to do a merger. A says we're going to buy company B, and they're going to say for every 2 shares, right? Now stock's trading at 20 and A is trading at 51. So they're going to say they're going to give you 2 shares or 1 share of A for every 2 shares of B. Okay. So right now you could technically buy 2 shares of B for 40 and sell the stock at 51 and make some money. So people know that. So the price of this stock will go right to like 25. Boom, right up to 25 because there's value there. Now let me explain why. Risk arbitrage, I would do this. It's still risky, but you feel safe. So we'll say, okay, I'm going to buy 2 shares of B, and that's going to cost me $50, right? We agree with that. Then at the same time, exact same time, I'm going to sell short 1 share of A at 51. So remember, I'm selling short, so I'm going to receive $51, right? We're selling 1 share. I'm going to buy 2 of this and spend 50. So what's going to happen is if the deal goes through, and we put it on and take it off, we play around with it. But right now we're saying I'm going to buy 2 shares of B for $50, 25 each. That's going to cost me 50. And then I'm going to short the 51. When the deal goes through, I'm going to get 1 share of A. So that 1 share of A will cover my short position. You have to understand what shorting is. Now, shorting is when you borrow shares and sell them without owning them, hoping they go down or whatever it is. And in this case, you don't care if they go down or not. And then you have to buy it back at some point. So the workaround is that I'm going to short the shares. So at some point, I have to replace that short position. But if I buy the 2 shares of B for $50, when the merger happens, I'm going to get 1 share. Remember, for every 2 shares of B, I'm going to get 1 share of A. So what happens is when it goes through, I'm going to get 1 share of A. I'm going to use that flat non-pay position. Now, obviously, I'm not going to do 1 share at a time. I'm going to do thousands of shares. I'm going to buy 1,000 shares. I'm going to sell short 1,000 shares of A, and I'm going to buy 2,000 shares of B. And as long as I can make this little dollar, it's a lot less now with computers, but as long as I can make that little dollar, I'm a happy person. So now what happens is sometimes it's literally, this is the relationship between the two. And what happens is they get closer and farther together. Like maybe A will go down a little bit, B will go up. Then maybe I'll buy this back for less and sell it for, I can trade around the position and try to make a little extra money during the deal. So this is what happens. So now the risk is that the deal falls apart. So here's why it's risky. So right now you think, oh, this is easy. Arbitrage works. You buy 2 shares of B for a total of $50, and then you short the A at the same time. You bring in the 51, you spend 50, you make $1 per share or whatever. I like that. Now, the problem is it could go the wrong way. And this is what happened to me. So we had, see if I can do the math. So back in the Stone Ages, in the early 90s, 92 to be exact, when we used stone and pestle, mortar and pestle and stone tablets to do this shit, and like abacuses to do the math, Medco Containment was going to merge with Diagnostic, and it was really going to be a 1-for-1 deal. So we shorted. So basically, we saw this and we said, okay, for every share of Diagnostic you get, you're going to get a share of Medco. So it worked. So the Diagnostic was $29.50. We're short at 30. For every share we bought, we're looking at 50 cents. So we're looking at what, 100,000 times 50 cents? We're looking at a $50,000 profit. Right? Because we're going to buy 100,000 shares of Diagnostic at $29.50. And at the same time, short 100,000 at 30, we make 50 cents times 100,000 shares, $50,000 profit. Okay, we're good. That works. Now we're going on and on and on. And in the morning, the guy's fucking name, Marty Weiss. We got on the phone with him and we talked to him. And I was 22, so I was mostly listening in, but it was a small shop, so I had to be involved. We're talking to him and he goes, no, there's like I remember it's like 10:45 in the morning, and we're like, we may even had less of a position. We may have had like 50,000 shares at the time. So Marty Weigand, we talked to him at like 10:45, and we're like, oh, the deal's great. We're doing good. It's all working. We're going to pass through the stuff. Fine. So we load up and we ended up buying the 100,000 shares and shorting the 100,000 shares. So we're now fully leveraged on here. We're looking at a $50,000 profit. The deal's going to close in like 2 weeks. An hour and a half later, we see that on the TV, Marty Weiss on there. We're like, oh, I wonder what he's going to say. And he goes, okay. This was one of the times that my boss, we were at 111 Broadway. This is back when they had windows that opened. After this happened, he took his keyboard and threw it out the window and landed in Trinity Church graveyard. I mean, it's crazy. We're 11 floors up and it just threw it right out the window. So literally, we're looking at this. We highly leverage. He talked to his boss. My boss talked to his funder and said that we want to do this. This is a great deal. We're going to make a quick hitter money. Then Marty Weiss at noon, 12:01, gets on and goes, the deal is canceled. Something happened with diagnostic they weren't talking about. There was some bad news on that. And the stocks ran the wrong way, 10 points each way. So this stock went from 30 to 40. So boom, it went to 40. So we lost $100,000 right there. Okay. Each stock went $10. So we were looking at making a $50,000 profit. So we lost $100,000 because we shorted the stock at 30 and we had to buy it back at 40 because there was no more downward pressure. So boom, that went up. And then this went down to $19, somewhere around there. So we ended up losing about, I'll say 1950 because I can't do math. It went to 1950. So we lost $100,000 on that side. So we go from making possibly a $50,000 profit easy to losing $200,000 in a span of about 30 seconds. And literally after we talked to the person and he lied to our faces, motherfucking Marty Weiss. And then a year later, they merged with Merck, and if we owned the shares, we would have been okay. But the point was, you lost $200,000 in a matter of seconds because the person lied. So that's where the risk is. That yes, it works most of the time. A lot of the deals work, and as I said, as we get closer to the deal, the spread narrow, and we can make some money on it. But in reality, this is why it's called risk arbitrage, because regular arbitrage, you're guaranteed. This one, you're not. So you lost money. We took a big hit, 200,000. I think I left the business for about 6 months after that. I think I drove a bus for like 6 months just because I can do it. Then I went back and started working on the stock exchange. Fucking nuts. It was so bad. It was such a hard hit. This is 1992. There was a lot of money. We're a small firm. We're a little hedge fund. We took a big hit. He's fine. The guy works for us. So I came back in the business after being like, I can't do this. Then I went back and did it and went back. And I started working on the stock exchange. And the rest is, as we say, history. Now, that's risk arbitrage. The next one we're going to talk about is convertible arbitrage. This will help if you're taking the 7 and other stuff. So convertible arbitrage is the same thing. Remember, arbitrage is buy one, short the other. I'm going to show a couple examples. Basically, what you're doing is you're buying the bonds when the shares, if converted, are more than the bond. So you're going to buy the bond and short the shares. I'm going to show you how to do it. But again, convertible arbitrage is when you buy the convertible bond when the stock price converted would be more than the price of the bond, and you short the shares at the same time. Remember, do it at the same time so there's no risk. We're going to buy the bonds and short the shares. If you get nothing out of it, that's arbitrage. That's convertible arbitrage. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's walk through this. So we should know how to do convertible bonds before you have this conversation. But a convertible bond is a bond that turns into common stock. So there's always kind of like when you have something that turns into something else, there's always a little bit of room that maybe you can fuck around and make a little money. So understand, so I buy a convertible debenture that turns into 40 shares, right? So this is going to turn into 40 shares of common. That's great. So I'm going to get 40 shares of common for every bond I convert. So that's great. And where's the stock trading at 29? So I'm going to get 40 shares of common for every bond I convert. So if I do 40 times 29, 40 times 29, that's worth 1160. So if I were to convert my shares, convert the share into bond into stock, and then sell the shares, I would get 1160, which is great. Now, how much in the bond I can buy for 114? So I'm going to say 1160 here. So I'll put 1160 as if I convert, and then I can buy the bond for 1140. We see the price. So in reality, if I could play this game, what can I do? I can buy the bond for 1140, then convert and then sell it at 1160. That's great. I can make $20 per bond. The problem is during this time where I buy, convert, and then sell, the stock could drop below 1140 and I lose money. Okay. So I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do at the exact same time, I'm going to buy one bond for 1140 and then sell short 40 shares of the stock at 29 for 1160. So I'm going to receive 1160 and I buy a bond for 1140. Now I'm locked in. I have this $20 gain locked in. I will then convert the shares. I will convert this bond into shares, 40 shares. Remember, I shorted 40 here. I owe that. I have to buy that back at some point. So if I buy this bond at the same time I short the shares, and then I convert, I'm going to get 40 shares when I convert. And I'm short 40 shares, so that'll flatten me out. So that's why in this question, it goes, I'll buy 10 bonds. So what I'll do is I'll buy 10 bonds, whatever how much that is. I know it's easy, but I'm not going to do the math on me. 10 times 1140. So I'm going to spend 11,400. Yeah, that should, I sound like an idiot. I don't know that, but I'm going to spend 11,400 to buy those bonds. And then I'm going to short 400 times 29. That's 11,600. So I'm going to, where's my, there it is. I'm going to short this. I'm going to short 400 shares of the stock. It's $29 a share and receive 11,600. So that's great. So I bought this for 11,400 at the exact same time I shorted these shares for 11,600. That's a $200 profit. So remember, I'm short the shares. Eventually, I have to give them back. So refill my short position because I owe them. I borrowed the shares. If I convert this, I'll get however many shares, right? I'll get 400 shares, right? Boom. It is 400, right? 400 times. Yeah, good enough. Okay, it's not 400 shares because I'm an idiot. I will, wait, 10, yeah. I get 400 shares. 400 times 29, right? Yeah, that works. So I'm an idiot. So I'm short the stock. I have to buy it back. So I will convert this and get 400 shares, and that'll flatten out my short position. That's convertible arbitrage. Always remember, it only goes one way. It doesn't go back and forth. It is always buying bonds and shorting shares. It is never buying the shares and shorting the bonds because you can't turn stock into bonds. It only goes one way. You can only turn the bond into stock, so you can only convert one way. So this is arbitrage. So that's the three main types of arbitrage. We have regular pure arbitrage, where you find a difference between where it's trading in one market and trading in another, and you buy one and you short the higher one and you make the difference. Totally legal. That's not like a wash trade. Remember, a wash trade is illegal where you're buying and selling at the same price in the same market to make it look like there's volume. That's not this. I'm buying in one place and I'm shorting it in another at a higher price to make a profit, not to do this. So that's pure arbitrage, no risk. Convertible arbitrage, same thing. I buy the bonds when they're trading lower than where the stock would be shorted at, and I buy the bonds, short the shares. I make that. Again, that's risk. That's riskless because once you put it on, you're not losing money. Because remember, even if the things move, they move together. You make your spread. Risk arbitrage or merger arbitrage is very risky because what you're doing is you're shorting the shares of the company that's buying the other one. So the buying company you're shorting, and then you're buying the target company. And then when they merge, you're going to get shares of the new company that you shorted, and it's going to pay off the short. Hope that helps a little bit. I hope it didn't make it worse. Welcome to class, baby. This is risk arbitrage. Remember, arbitrage is not a dirty word. And it's legal. Don't forget to check me out every Tuesday and Thursday at 8:30 p.m. on the Two of You for a live Q&A on any FINRA exam, whether it's the SIE exam, the Series 6, 7, 24, 9, 10, any of these exams is 63, 65, 66. What I think is funny is that every time, by the way, please like, subscribe, and share if you think this shit's helping. Every time I put a test up there and I forget it one, they go, "Oh, are you asking about that?" Literally, I says all FINRA and Nasaa exams. So that works. I'm trying to help everyone out, trying to give back a little bit. Everyone, I'll see you on tomorrow night, Tuesday night. Love you.